Planning an unforgettable trip through Italy? Well, figuring out how to get between Venice and Rome is a massive piece of the puzzle. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're unpacking the definitive 2026 guide to traveling this route by train. Getting this right is literally the difference between starting your vacation totally exhausted or arriving completely relaxed and ready for gelato. We're going to cover the whole shebang today, from travel times and ticket prices to the stunning scenery you'll catch along the way.
So did you know taking the train across Italy is actually faster than flying? I know, it completely flipped how I view Italian transportation too. A lot of us instinctively look up flights when we see the distance between Venice and Rome, just assuming the air is always faster. But as we're about to see, the train is actually the undisputed champion of this specific route.
All right, here's our agenda for today. First, we'll compare train versus flight. Then we'll cover route basics and stations, look at Frecciarossa versus Italo, dive into smart booking and pricing, and finally explore the scenic Italian ride.
Starting off with Section 1, Train versus Flight. Let's dig into exactly why the rails absolutely dominate the skies here. When you really crunch the numbers, that quote-unquote faster one-hour flight, it's kind of a mirage. Once you factor in a 45-minute airport taxi and 2 hours of check-in time, the train suddenly becomes vastly more efficient. Sure, a flight is quick in the air, but think about it. You have to get out to Venice Marco Polo Airport, shuffle through mandatory security queues, and then figure out another 30 to 45-minute transfer from Fiumicino Airport into central Rome. Suddenly, you're looking at 5 to 6 hours of exhausting travel. The train? It takes you directly from city center to city center in roughly 3.5 hours, with absolutely none of that hassle.
And the bonus perks are just incredible. You literally just stroll onto the train with your bags, no stressful weigh-ins, no unpacking your liquids for security. You get way more legroom than economy flights, standard power outlets, and free Wi-Fi so you can stay connected. Plus, choosing the train over a short-haul flight drops your carbon emissions from a staggering 255 grams of CO2 per kilometer down to just 14 grams. It is a massive environmental win.
Moving right along to Section 2, Route Basics and Stations. Let's establish the geographical groundwork of your trip.
3 hours and 24 minutes. That is the absolute minimum time it takes to rocket directly between these two historic cities, hitting blistering speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour. Now, depending on the specific service you book, some trains do make stops along the way in places like Florence or Bologna, which can bring the journey closer to 4 or 4.5 hours. But 3 hours and 24 minutes, that is your fastest option. You'll be zooming across almost 400 kilometers, or about 245 miles, entirely within Italy. And you know what that means? You don't even need to pull your passport out of your bag. There are absolutely no border crossings or passport checks. You just sit back, relax, and cut south through 5 beautiful Italian regions. Now, this is absolutely crucial. Always verify your station names when booking. Getting this wrong means a very expensive taxi ride. For the most central experience, you want to book from Venetia Santa Lucia straight into Roma Termini. Venetia Santa Lucia sits magically right on the Grand Canal, so you literally step out of the station and boom, you're in Venice. You'll generally want to avoid Venetia Mestre unless your hotel is specifically out on the mainland. And when you arrive in Rome, Roma Termini is this massive central hub handling up to 200 million passengers a year, putting you right in the heart of the capital with direct metro access.
Okay, Section 3. Frecciarossa versus Italo. It's time for the great operator debate to figure out which high-speed service is your best match.
So Frecciarossa is the national operator. It's perfect if you've got a Eurail pass, and it boasts highly frequent daily departures. Italo, on the other hand, is the private operator, and it's often a huge winner for families because kids under 14 can travel free with discounted adults, and they sometimes have slightly lower starting prices. Honestly, though, both are incredibly reliable, modern, and hit those top speeds of 300 kilometers per hour. You really can't lose. Between the two of them, there are 38 to 55 trains running this exact route every single day.
Looking at the class levels, listen, do not feel pressured to upgrade. For a 3.5-hour trip, the base economy tiers, which are Smart on Italo or Standard on Frecciarossa, are perfectly comfortable. They're spacious, and they include Wi-Fi and power outlets for everyone. You absolutely can upgrade, of course. You can bump up to Premium for a welcome snack, or go all out with Executive or Club Executive for lounge access and gourmet at-seat meals. But truly, you do not need to break the bank to have a highly comfortable ride.
Let's jump into Section 4, Smart Booking and Pricing. This is where we learn how to secure the absolute cheapest tickets possible. 20 euros. Burn this number into your mind, because this is your target. 20 euros is the lowest consistent starting price for an early booked Italo Smart Class ticket.
Frecciarosa's standard class is right behind it, starting around €25. Hitting these price points makes high-speed rail incredibly affordable, but you've got to know how to play the game.
And here is the cost of procrastinating. Booking 30 or more days out, you're grabbing those 20 to 30 euro sweet spots. But walking up to the station on the day of travel, that will absolutely punish your wallet with tickets running 90 euros or more. The operators release their cheapest seats the earliest, so I highly recommend booking at least 2 to 4 weeks in advance to lock in those savings.
So, how do we lock these deals in? First, go directly to Trenitalia.com or italotreno.it. You can use comparison platforms to check schedules, but booking direct guarantees you avoid any sneaky third-party fees. Next, filter by time and duration, and make sure to select the non-refundable base fares, usually called Economia or Base, because those are always the cheapest. Finally, download the digital e-ticket straight to your phone. Don't worry about printing anything, conductors scan it right off your screen, but definitely download it locally since cell service can drop in the tunnels.
And finally, Section 5, the scenic Italian ride. Let's talk about what the actual onboard experience looks and feels like as you speed south.
This is where it gets really fun. Here's a chronological breakdown of how your window view will transition. You kick things off by gliding directly over the watery Venetian lagoon across the causeway. By minute 45, you're cutting through the flat agricultural plains of the Po River Valley and Emilia-Romagna. But past the 2-hour mark near Florence, the landscape really shifts gear. You are treated to those iconic Tuscan hills and vineyards. Then you hit the remote, greener valleys of Umbria, and finally, around hour 3.5, the stone pines and ancient aqueducts on the outskirts of Rome.
Okay, ready for an expert hack? When you're choosing your seat on the digital map during booking, make absolutely sure you grab a window seat on the right-hand side of the train facing the direction of travel. That is your front row cinematic ticket to the very best Tuscan and Umbrian views. It completely elevates the whole journey.
To make boarding a total breeze, just treat the station like a well-oiled machine. There is no need to arrive 3 hours early to eat a sad, overpriced airport sandwich. 15 to 20 minutes is perfect. Just keep an eye on your bags in these busy stations. Check the big departure boards. Your platform will pop up about 15 minutes before the train leaves. And remember, these trains leave exactly on time. Once you find your platform, find your specific carriage number first, hop on, slide your bags into those large aircraft-style overhead racks, keep your e-ticket handy, and settle in.
So, knowing just how incredibly easy it is to bridge these two worlds by rail, the only question left for you is, are you going to spend more time getting lost in the watery labyrinths of Venice or unraveling the ancient imperial secrets of Rome? The choice is entirely yours. Keep these tips in your back pocket and enjoy every single second of your adventure.